All right. Hi, everybody. My name is Katie Cornell, and I'm the Executive Director of ArtsAVL. And I want to start by also thanking the rest of our small but mighty team who you met at check-in. It's Caroline Krupe and Rebecca Lynch. And so the three of us make up the ArtsAVL team. So let's give them a round of applause. So if you don't know, I hope you know by now, we are your designated arts agency for Buncombe County, sometimes called Arts Councils as well. And our role is to be your connector, your champion, and your investor. And so I hope you are seeing and feeling that from your Arts Council. We monitor the creative pulse of our community very closely, and we listen to the issues that are impacting you. And one of the issues that we heard from you last year, loud and clear, was you wanted some more support around marketing. The pandemic, impacted marketing budgets. Also, audience behavior changed as a result of the pandemic. And so that is what is bringing us here today for this town hall. I want to thank Explore Asheville for being both flexible and understanding with us. This was supposed to happen in late summer and kick off our town hall series, but things heated up at Thomas Wolfe, and we ended up having to prioritize that event. And so we did that then, and so I'm glad that we're now able to come back and do this now. I also want to thank, whoops, too far. Uh-oh, there we go. We got there eventually. I also want to thank the rest of our event series sponsors. Center for Craft is hosting us today for this event, free of charge, and we really appreciate arts partners like the Center for Craft. I also want to thank some of our other key sponsors, the North Carolina Arts Council, again, Explore Asheville, the City of Asheville, Buncombe County, the Andrew Harris Group at Morgan Stanley Private Wealth Management, Blue Spiral One, and Public Interest Projects and the Friends of Brian and Gail McCarthy. I also want to thank all of our nonprofit supporters, which are listed down here at the bottom. That means a lot to us that these nonprofits are investing and supporting in the advocacy work that we're doing on their behalf. I also want to thank our Arts Coalition. We have this leadership team that helps guide us in our advocacy work on their behalf. They're our sounding board. They give us really good input on the issues impacting our creative community. And now I'm going to go back. This is the slide that is supposed to go next. One of the other major issues that we're dealing with right now is space. We are hearing from every sector of our creative economy, individual artists and businesses, that they're being impacted by space. And not just affordable space issues, just space availability issues in general. And so we want to get to the bottom of this and understand what's happening. So for the first part of this year, we're doing a deep dive in it and really trying to understand both issues and the needs. And so right now we have a survey out that if you would please fill it out, that would be wonderful. Share it with your networks. The more people we get to take this survey and fill it out, the more we can understand what's happening and impacting you. The results of this will come out as part of a full report in May, and it will conclude our town hall series with one final event on May 10th. So I hope that you'll both fill out the survey and join us on May 10th for that final town hall event. You can find more information about the whole project at artsavl.org/spaces. Okay. So now, without further ado, I'm going to go back to this slide, and I would like to welcome VP of Marketing from Explore Asheville, Dodie Stevens, and Marketing Director from Explore Asheville, Nick Kepley, up to the podium.
nice to see some familiar faces in the room, but even more exciting to see so many not so familiar faces, because this is why we're here and gathering. This is where we kind of get the momentum of connection and collaboration and engagement, and so that's our intention here today. With that, and thank you to Katie and the team, and also to Senator Craft for having us here today. So today we'd like to share some ideas for leveraging the promotional momentum, and some of that is what Explore Asheville offers to partners, and also to ideas for capturing visitor business. We'll also try to call out some of the resources available to our partners for marketing support. But first, I'm curious, I would love to see a show of hands. How many in the room grew up here? Zero, okay. So I think this is going to be keeping your hands up. How many of you moved to the area for Asheville's creative community? Okay, and keep your hands up if you consider visitors a significant portion of your business. Okay, well, and that's why we're here, to help you capture that business and to work together towards that. Like many of you in the room, the arts energy of this place is certainly part of my Blue Ridge Mountain origin story, and was definitely what compelled me to stay 17 years ago. I have to credit our new director of marketing, Nick Kepley, with this great idea to poll our teammates, and more than 75% of the team at Explore Asheville identify as artsy creators. Penelope Whitman, I think you're here, is our VP of Partnership and Destination Manager. She worked as a painter and sculptor for 15 years. Nick is a former professional dancer in the world of Broadway and ballet. Our director of content, Emily, might also be here, is an actor here in town and co-founded a theater company in Broadway. And Mickey on our PR team is a playwright and actor at Magnetic Theater. So lots of artists and love for the arts on the team. I came up in the arts studying musical theater and writing and design, and ultimately that was the foundation of why I found my way into marketing, which could be aligned with some of you here in this room. And it's been nourishing to be a part of this community for 15 years now, and to be working alongside the creatives here. So I want to get into how we at Explore Asheville, on behalf of the TDA, maintain our focus on Asheville's creative spirit. These are our strategic pillars. They ground and inform everything that we do, and we're built in collaboration with the community with the intention to reflect shared values and vision, and ultimately to guide and enhance the quality of how visitors engage and benefit our community. I'll read those to you. So we have delivering balanced recovery and sustainable growth, encouraging safe and responsible travel, engaging and inviting more diverse audiences, and promoting Asheville's creative spirit. And the creative spirit pillar is baked into everything that we do. Within this pillar, we share and promote stories of creators and makers who differentiate this special place, as well as the visual and performing arts. And it also supports community projects and placemaking and connections. ArtsAVL's research has demonstrated that the arts businesses in our community, especially those traditional culture venues and performance spaces, are still facing major challenges coming out of the pandemic. Katie just mentioned that, and we know that 69% of visitor spending happens outside of lodging businesses, and here in our community, with a population of 95,000 and 270,000 in the county, we need those visitor dollars to support the depth of the creative economy here. And that's where those pillars help keep us focused on that quality of the visit. And here's one example of how we're using that on the big picture level through our market strategy. This is a map of AVL Airport's direct flights. And the data tells us that air travelers spend more and they stay longer and go to more places of impact around the community. Buncombe County is traditionally a drive market. 85% of our travelers drive here, and 55% fly. So we keep that, and we keep that focus on our drive market. But we also are investing more in some of these new routes, like Orlando and emerging markets like Dallas, that our data is showing us are producing more high-impact travelers who stay longer and leave more dollars behind. And so that's one of the examples of how we're working from a strategy standpoint to leverage visitor behavior, as we set the table so that arts can get a bigger bite of the apple. Center stage in our marketing is Asheville's creative community, and it's happening. It's part of our brand on a very foundational level. This is the Asheville logo. It should be very familiar. It was created back in 2005, and although it's evolved along the way and been refined, you can see how it was inspired by brushstrokes. It's designed to look layered and handcrafted and bold, like our arts community. And it's also, creative spirit is also in the words that we use when we talk about Asheville's community. So it's baked into the brand in every way, shape, and form. This mixture of genres, a hybrid of styles, where emerging ideas flow, deeply rooted and ever evolving, drawing you in and calling you back again. This is our brand anthem. And I'd like to show you the TV spot that we're currently using.
Tell me, when was the last time you let your mind wander? Took a moment to just breathe, move to the beat of your own and dream. Here in Asheville, we're a mix of genres, a hybrid of styles. Growers who are artists and artists whose work grows. Creators in fields and in kitchens. And vinyl, glass, chocolate, and clay. From the lady on the hill to the terrace at the grove. Settling for nothing, hungry for everything. Butter biscuits and buttered chicken. Broad-minded and French broad. We are everyone for every single one, all joined together to stand out. Deeply rooted, ever evolving. You are welcome. Always Asheville.
Everyone behind it, in front of the camera, were paid Asheville artists. As you can see, it's infused our marketing at all levels. It's more than just a campaign or an initiative, and though we have those. And we also know that this is important because it resonates with our visitors. Buncombe County visitors are more highly motivated towards retail and boutique shopping. That ranks among their top experiences. They also index a lot higher than the national average for engagement in cultural, arts, and entertainment activities and events. So I'll transition now to kind of talking about the resources that will get you thinking about plugging into that business. I'll start with some of the layers of our organizational work and hopefully get you all adding some ideas to your marketing tool belt. Our grant programs are an ongoing resource that allows our community to tap into the cultural. We administer grant programs on behalf of the TDA, and that's been happening since 2001. The Tourism Product Development Fund has invested $86 million in community projects, the Wortham Center, the space that we're standing in, Leaf Glow Arts. One thing to keep in mind is that we also do event support grants. That's another resource, giving out $165K in the past 2 years. That has supported the Arts Trail, the Asheville Amadeus, Connect Beyond. It's really great to be thinking about that schedule, the grant schedule, and aware of that across the calendar year. And those event grant cycles are running. And Katie has shared with me that we will be sending this out, so you don't have to take pictures or notes, but this is the contact information as well as an outline of our grant cycles and opportunities. there are also opportunities through our business development work. Our business development team travels across the country generating business, and the work that they do is specific to attract groups that align with our pillars and with our economic sectors. Currently, the team is working on conferences and bringing in events focused around photography, film, experience, and design. What's good to know here is that the team is regularly connecting local partners to these events. So if you have an event, venue, or a group offering that you would like to share, let us know. We can consider, they love to have those connections as they're plugging in speakers to these events and offering local experiential offerings. The team also conducts familiarization tours, or FAMs we call them, and the arts are regularly a part of that. That is when we are bringing in meeting planners to experience the destination on a scouting trip. These have really high ROI in terms of producing events that come back to the community, and which then we plug in as many local businesses as possible. And so if you're interested in getting connected to this or sharing your event space specs and things like that, here's some information on this slide here that will help you connect. So we also activate, moving on to marketing, and how on the many channels that we're activating for storytelling in the community. Before we get into the specifics, I think it's a nice, a little bit of an overwhelming slide, but a nice way to show the breadth of our storytelling platforms that we operate on behalf of the community through marketing. These are our earned channels, like media relations. These have a lot of high credibility and reflect the work of our PR team to tell meaningful and relevant stories. Also, our shared channels, that represents how we're engaging with event support and boosting that quality of the visitor visit, and as well as our own channels. This is probably the big, between that and the paid, are the biggest program of work here in terms of opportunities. Our website had 7 million sessions last year, and our digital footprint is 500,000, driving engagement. We also have a new web app that we'll get to later. And then of course, and Nick will share a little bit about our paid marketing program here shortly. So diving a little bit into media relations and the opportunities there, the team is always straddling proactive and reactive support. So reaching out, they connect with 700, we call them touch points, 726 touch points a year. But those aren't just in like one-on-one engagements with media. Sometimes it might be fact-checking or answering a question, but some of those 726 touch points that happen each year are long threads of story development, sharing local insights, sharing partner stories, connecting to partners, sharing assets. So there is a lot of opportunity within our media relations team to connect and have your story be a part, and your news be a part of what they're sharing. We also host media on research trips. Their average is around 90 a year, and group FAMs. So that is another opportunity where we are connecting to partners and helping to tell those Asheville stories. This slide is just giving you a look into the proactive efforts. As the team sends out constantly sending out pitches to various news outlets and leveraging connections across, leveraging their longtime connections. This is just a quick illustration of some of the arts content that has gone out in the last 2 releases. So we are always looking for those news items, your background stories, and the way that you share those with us is here. Here's a slide, just some of the highlights that have resulted for the arts. But the way that you share that with us is through the news at Explore Asheville email address. We want your news, we want your events, but I'd also just want to make the note that we completely understand that so many of you are running your business and your day-to-day operations make it really hard for you to remember to send something several months out. So we're always happy to connect with you on your level if that's if it's easier to just have a phone call or to download some background information, send over just a few rough notes. We don't need something polished and a professional release. We will take it as you have to give it and run with that. The more connected our team is to your efforts and your backstories, the better job that we can do to shine that spotlight on more of our community. And now I'll bring up Nick, who's going to show some of the content marketing connections, as well as our paid media efforts.
Thank you. I just want to start by saying I really am so grateful to be here, ArtsAVL, because the bulk of my experience after I was a professional dancer was in arts marketing. I worked in the marketing departments for New York City Ballet and Manhattan Theater Club and Milwaukee Repertory Theater before moving back home to Asheville, where I grew up, and starting to work for Explore Asheville, which I'm really pleased to be at too. But it's really special to be back in a room with fellow artists, so I just am really happy to be here. So yeah, here we have sort of our content marketing piece of the puzzle. Arts marketing or arts content features prominently across all of Explore Asheville's own channels, and there's a lot of opportunities for engagement for you. Our events calendar landing page, which trafficked over 500,000 users between August 2023 and today, is a great example of that. We have the packages and deals page, that's also a very popular page performance-wise, and provides a lot of opportunity for cross-promotion. So that's maybe something to kind of think about how you can partner up with restaurants for pre-show, post-show deals and things like that. Our monthly newsletter, which has about 195,000 subscribers, is regularly featuring arts-related content. And the partner listings, which are pulled through, which we're going to talk about in a second, how to create a partner account for anyone who doesn't know how to do that. But those accounts pull automatically through to listings, and that's featured regularly in editorials and roundups. We kind of use those as ways to get information as well. And then we just launched our Explore Asheville app, which is also pulling through from those listings and also contains special arts-focused itineraries. In a second, there'll be a QR code if you want to pull your phone out, but you'll also get these slides. So, great. So let's talk about those listings. There's several different categories that are eligible to have accounts with us and listings. A lot of people in this room probably will fall under, maybe attractions, but this is all on the website at ashevillecvb.com/request-an-account, and you can kind of click through and see what all of the qualifications are. But what you need to complete this account is just adding a reciprocal link on your website, business contact information. The most important thing I think to mention there for this group is there does need to be a physical address to have an account, so just as long as you have a physical business address. Your website, a short description of your business, strong imagery, which I'm going to talk about in a second as well, and then any social media handles that you want to share. So this is an example of what one of our listings currently looks like, which I should mention we're going through a big website redesign project right now, but this is the current page. Account information, like I said, does get pulled through from your listings, and you have the ability to add information to your account about your amenities, any facilities that you may offer, and then any upcoming events. So I just want to kind of show you here. This is ACT, obviously, so it pulls down, and then here you'll see the events, and here you'll notice you can click directly through to buy tickets. So I just wanted to point out, thinking about the path from our site to yours, here on this page, I would need to scroll down to then click another buy tickets to then go to the box office. So just kind of thinking about that path for the user, who's clicking a buy tickets button and maybe thinking they're going to go right to that place. So just kind of thinking through the user journey. And then spreading the word. So even if you do not have an account, there is this submit an event page that is available. You just need to have your event in at least 10 days in advance. And there's free inclusion on, this is free inclusion on one of exploreasheville.com's most popular pages. And then I'm gonna pull back to these next bits in just a second, so I'm gonna skip that. So some of these plugin points, you know, keep your partner listings and events updated with eye-catching imagery. So, you know, on those events pages, there's an opportunity to have multiple images and like a slideshow. So just thinking about, you know, for us on our website, these are mostly people that probably are brand new to Asheville or have never been to Asheville or just kind of exploring for the first time. So it's really the first touch point with your organization. And as we know, imagery, you know, is kind of what draws the eye over copy. So really trying to have at least one really strong, solid image there. So you need to click forward. And then consider ways that you might collaborate with other partners, like I was saying, to create packages and promotions. Ways that you can cross-collaborate, and that kind of also helps your audiences cross-pollinate. So if there are ways to kind of get beyond just your organization there. And then I just want to mention, you know, in arts marketing, like a lot of us know, email is still the most solid driver of ticket sales. So really working to build your email list, maybe thinking about ways that you can segment to your audiences, thinking about the difference between an audience person who's just subscribed to a newsletter for the first time versus someone that has been engaged for a while, and the kind of content that you're sending out to those people. You know, for instance, if I signed up for a newsletter for a theater and then immediately the first email I got was a fundraising appeal, I probably would feel a little strange about that, as you all would. You know, so just kind of thinking through that path and that cascade of email correspondence. But you know, really, in my experience, I would not be afraid to over email. I mean, obviously monitor your opt-outs, but I've been surprised again and again with ticket sales how emails just really drive it, and people will take it week after week, you know, so I would really encourage use of email. And then, like Jody was saying, keeping us in the know. This is the news address. You'll get these slides again, so no need to write it down, but that's the best place to send any press releases to. And then, as I said, here is this QR code. The new Asheville app is really awesome, so I definitely encourage you to download it, and it's, you know, usable for locals as well. So here we're going to talk a little bit about social media. These are all of our stats on our performance. You know, we have obviously really engaged, active audiences on all platforms. I asked our current social media and content manager, Maggie Gregg, for some tips that she might want to share with you all today. And she immediately talked about video, which I'm sure is not a surprise. But what she did point out, with at least for us, and obviously everyone's audience is different, is that for us, video tends to perform the best, particularly related to the arts, when it is paired with some other happening. And that's kind of something that I wanted to bring up in this presentation today for you all is, you know, coming from an arts background, which can be very locally focused on, you know, subscriber base and donor base. What I do now at Explore Asheville is work with visitors, you know, and in my experience with arts marketing, I never really had a director of marketing who talked about the visitor segment in a different way and talked about kind of how you could attract a visitor in a separate way. So I really do think that's an important takeaway for you maybe today is, you know, these are people that are brand new, and also maybe they are only here for a night or two. So they may feel a little bit differently about giving away 2 to 3 hours of their evening in one way, you know? So it's just something to think about. I'm not saying I have necessarily an answer for that, but just considering what it's like to be a visitor and what you feel like when you're a visitor in a new place and how you want to kind of experience as much of it as you can. And what does that mean for your art form or your organization? How can you kind of provide opportunities for connection that maybe are different than local audiences? So Maggie was saying that, you know, pairing video content with a night out, like this video I'm going to show you now that we ran recently, is really high performing.
Here's a day from Asheville featuring college lawns for dinner and drinks. You take about a 5-minute walk to the Hazel Robinson Theater to see the Montfort Park players for free. Pass your drinks and enjoy the show.
So, yeah. So here's some plugins, and I'm going to point this out. This is one of my favorite social accounts. This is the Milwaukee Public Library, which, you know, but does anyone follow? Yeah, amazing. I know. I know. And so I think the good point here is that, you know, this is not necessarily, I mean, there is a library behind them, but this isn't like about a library, you know, this is this is just fun content that fits in, but is really eye-catching in other ways, you know? So the point there for me is that anyone can really be an influencer, and it doesn't even necessarily have to always be about selling the tickets or showing even necessarily your artwork. There could be other, and that's where you as artists can be really creative and have a lot of fun, you know, with your social media and become influencers in some niche area that's super cool and unexpected. I just want to go back because I want to see if there was anything else. Yeah, I just wanted to mention that a lot of these platforms, you know, Meta, Facebook, Instagram, have really robust built-in analytics, particularly if you have a business account, and that's also free, you know? So, I mean, we have various amounts of time to be looking at all these things, but at least kind of tracking your followership, obviously, and your engagement. You know, is this content that you're spending so much time on and looks maybe so beautiful, is it resonating? You know, Emily and I were talking about that recently, like, it may not be the thing that you feel is the most aesthetically pleasing that necessarily is getting the most attention, and so really paying attention to what do the people want, you know, and how can you kind of straddle the balance of giving the people what they're interested in and also stay true to your brand. And then being consistent, Maggie mentioned this as well, you know, you'd be surprised how far it can go to just post consistently when you're trying to build your brand. So, you know, just make sure you are following Visit Asheville and tag us so that we have the opportunity to repost you and your content. So now I'm going to focus on a very specific campaign that a lot of you might be familiar with that we did this past summer and fall. This was actually right when I joined the team that this was kind of kicking off. But it started with a arts and culture focus group that we did a survey around, just trying to kind of get a sense of what the arts community was needing and looking for. And then we embarked on a pilot program where we really were focusing on the cultural and performing arts in Asheville. So we were trying to increase engagement and attendance for Asheville's performing arts organizations. And you know, very quickly, this was something, like I said, this was right when I started, and I was trying to think, you know, again, for the visitor mind, how to best pull in interest from visitors. And so we kind of went these two paths of sort of a general focus of just kind of all the arts, because I realized quickly, you know, it's impossible that we put every single arts organization in Nashville in this ad. So just kind of keeping it a general arts focus. But then we did also experiment with more of a genre-specific focus, doing, this is an example of like a theater focus, a dance focus, a music focus, you know, things like that. And then the content team built this amazing cultural and performing arts landing page, which this will show you a little bit of that. It had a rolling calendar showcasing the latest arts-related events, itineraries, and arts venues. And the average time on page was 2 minutes, which is higher than the average that we see on our site. So just pulling through all these different pieces. The super industry, high level, you know, mumbo jumbo, but the impressions, you know, over 3 million impressions. Landing page views, close to 20,000. And that we exceeded our click-through goal for this campaign. Our CPM was lower than expected, which resulted in additional impressions. That's just a figure that's every 1,000 times you see, you get served an ad, there's costs associated with that. And then additionally, the CPC was also below, which also allowed us to drive more. And then once our users landed on the site, we saw GA4 track over 12,000 sessions with an average time per session of 8 seconds, and we tracked 458 clicks on the on-page events pods from that page. Here's more examples of the creative. This version 3 that had different imagery was the strongest performing, which, you know, might interest some people in there. So some of you may have seen ads that are kind of more of this like one image all the way across, but it was interesting to see that this one performed stronger for us. And here are some Instagram story examples too from that campaign. Another big part of my role at Explore Asheville is managing our paid partnership pieces. These are, you know, sort of really large media partners that have extremely large reaches and let us get beyond our usual markets that we're working with. These are, you know, publications like Monocle, Travel and Leisure, Garden and Gun, Afar, Out Traveler, and Me Too that allow us to really tell the story of the arts in Asheville to a broad audience. And, you know, you really cannot talk about Asheville without talking about creativity and the arts. I mean, it truly is in everything that we're putting out. This is just a small sampling of what's kind of been out there in this fiscal year. And then our visitor guide. So every year, Explore Asheville and Saga City, we hire a team of local photographers and writers to create content for the official Asheville Visitor Guide. There are, I'm sorry, I'm really having a hard time reading this, sorry. Orders received to date total 10,000 plus individual guides ahead of 6,000 guides that we saw in February of last year. So we're pacing ahead of getting those out into the world. And then here are some examples of specific pages in the current guide that feature the arts. There's a stage and screen roundup. There's this art in the wild roundup with some mural callouts and some art walk callouts. And then this mountain made section that has different, that includes different made craft pieces that are kind of part of this, shopping list. And this fall, this is a big project I've been working on all year. I'm excited for it to come together. Travel and Leisure is going to, or we're partnering with Travel and Leisure to bring around 30 guests on this kind of dream trip to Asheville. And a piece of this is creating an itinerary that they'll experience that includes stops at Leaf Global Arts Center, includes musician Emmanuel Winter and Nero Tyndall. We'll be going to Citizen Vinyl. NC Glass Center is going to do a pop-up glass-making piece, and then storyteller Becky Stone and Steep Canyon Rangers. And so along with just the trip itself, there also are a lot of promotional pieces leading up to that and native articles that are included in that partnership. Such as one that I just was proofing today about Parker J. Pfister, if anyone knows Parker. So that story is kind of highlighting him. So that's an example of an opportunity to really thread through the narrative and tell really specific stories about the arts coming through these partnerships. So I think we're going to take some questions now, and actually we sourced some questions from you ahead of time, and thanks to those who submitted. So I'll let you take the first one. Okay.
Sure.
How far in advance do organizers need to submit information for out-of-town marketing? This varies. I think just literally for the website, it's 10 days. However, we know our visitors are booking more than 30 days out, and they are planning even farther than that. Now, if you layer in media relations and publicity opportunities, you want to back it up even further. I like to tell our partners to think of us like a news outlet with all the content and editorial that we're creating. Just even if you have a whisper of something big that you're doing, we're like the friendly news outlet that will embargo and hold that close to the vest. We will not share it without your permission. But what it allows us to do is look at the landscape of all these things that we're planning 6 to 9 months out, to a year out, and to see if there are any fits that we can go back to you and say, hey, is that thing confirmed? Is there any of this? It also allows us, when we're planning our calendars and themes, to start to collect from across the community things that are bubbling up, that are trends, that are resonating, that we can lift in a bigger way for the collective. So I would say it varies, but I think for a literal event, like 3 to 6 months, if you can. I know that it's hard when you're planning an event, sometimes the details, but in general, if you keep that kind of line of communication open with us, then we can also be looking out for those deadlines and be working with you as in partnership to get you in where we can get you in.
Yeah, I would also say that something that's really impressed me in this role is the culinary scene here, and the way that community really unites and comes together. And I think there's a lot to be learned from that, the collaborative support of that, And so if there are any ways to get, to collaborate with other artists and think of a broader theme that might emerge from that, if you're all working in a similar vein or working on a similar project, or maybe your seasons are somehow aligned, like I'm doing a play about this, so I'm doing a piece of music about this, and there's a storyline there, that could allow for a bigger story to come together for, a press pitch, that can be useful too. what are visitors looking for, and how can organizations catch visitors' eye? So yeah, I mean, I think for me, it goes back to what I was saying earlier, just the fact that they are visitors, and so that's a great question. What are visitors looking for in different ways, and what are you looking for when you're a visitor in another city? And how can you think about that interest and what you're looking for in that specific way versus if you're a local, how you're maybe more familiar, or just what that means for the time that you have when you're a local, is kind of what comes to mind for me with that. And then keep looking at it.
Yeah, I would say we know that our visitors are experiential, and they're very interested in those cultural experiences that connect them to the place. And so it's in anything that you're doing where those connections come through, where you're telling the story of a place, where something about you or what's happening is illuminating a piece of local culture, and so much of what I see across our community does that in all different ways. I think it's leading with that, thinking about an accessible experience to offer, or a way to tell that story so that it's easy for the visitor to identify, like, oh yeah, that's how I get immersed into this Blue Ridge Mountain art scene, and think about leading with that. I thought I had another thought on
Catching
this,
visitors' eyes.
but I think it evaporated. Maybe it'll come back to me.
Many of us have very limited marketing funding. What are some tips for maximizing limited budgets?
Yeah, what came up for me is, I know, and we've talked to Katie a lot about this, that it's a struggle, with creative assets, photography and video being the way that humans make decisions and prefer to engage with platforms. It's just really hard and almost unattainable in some cases for businesses to get that done, right? So first of all, I think it's important to remember that video that Nick shared, that wasn't professionally shot. And even more in platforms like TikTok and social media, those sleek videos have their value, but also almost more credible in many ways are some of those quick videos where you're just authentically yourselves in space, and thinking about how to do that creatively. So I think there's one piece of me that says, don't be afraid to just try it on your own. But also, I want to say that it is important to have those professional, photos for your listings, for your website, and things like that. And it can be hard. I would encourage you to partner up. See if you can pool resources to get some professional photography. And when you do make that investment, think about all of the ways you could possibly use it. Like, we even run into this in Explore Asheville. We are shooting something or putting something together with one thing in mind, and then as soon as it's over, oh crap, we wish we would have gotten that angle or this close up. So I think that work on the front end to really think through all the different channels you could possibly use it so that you can maximize that investment. Also, my other tip for that is making sure that you get the rights released and the models released, not only because it's important to be respecting the photographers and the models who engage with our work, but when you get the people to sign off, then you have the ability to use that stuff in many ways, to even maybe provide it to Explore Asheville so that we can give it to national media on your behalf. So it's important to think about planning those investments to work a little harder for you, and allow us to leverage them.
Yeah, and I totally agree. And one piece of really, really strong content can go a long way. Like at City Valley, we used to shoot our campaign video in the summer, which was about 2 to 3 minutes long, and then splice and dice that thing the whole year. It was like the first chunk was the fall campaign, and then winter was next, and then spring, and then there was still imagery that came from that. I mean, it was like, how far can you stretch one really solid piece of content rather than feeling like you have to make a million pieces of amazing content, so you can kind of pool your resources in that way. But then Emily and I were just talking too about, user-generated content. UGC is really where it's at in terms of social right now, which is great news because you don't have to necessarily worry about those really super high quality images or really fancy images on social. You can really be a little bit, looser with that. Yeah.
Can I just ask, since you're talking about imagery being so important, what are some tips that what people need to look for when they take them?
Yes, that's a great question. I would say something that I see a lot in the content that comes across is really trying to have a focus point to the image. Like, for instance, there's been several music, like concert imagery I've come across in our library where the figures are kind of to the sides of the image and there's not a really strong focus in the picture. So that's like a really specific thing. Also for us in particular, it helps to have some kind of sense of place in the imagery, like some sense of the theater, some sense of the gallery, not just like a close-up of a glass, you know, but kind of showing a little bit more is that's kind of what we're looking for.
I mean, and that's what visitors are looking
That's what
for,
visitors are
right?
looking
So
for, yeah.
is it an experience, some level of that shows the experience that they might have when they get there? That's a great layer to remind.
Yes.
I just wanted to throw out one tip that everybody's smartphone, in the settings, you can turn on a grid. That grid allows you to do what you're suggesting, which is place people in spots where people's eyes naturally fall. That makes the photography more sort of interesting to them. So your smartphone has a ton of tools that, if you know how to turn them on, really help you take better photographs, even if you're an amateur doing it yourself.
Yeah.
Sarah, yeah.
Our little computers are amazing.
Cool.
And then our last question here was, what is the best way to submit information to Explore Asheville, and what kinds of things are we typically looking for? So here's a great slide that kind of wraps up all those different email addresses that we were giving you in terms of listings and sharing your press releases. And again, I would say for Explore Asheville, which I say us because what we are thinking of is visitation and visitors from out of market. It's about the big picture, and the place, and the exploring the place, and like I was saying earlier, connecting to other experiences maybe that are happening, or somehow that it really ties into Asheville in a bigger way is helpful for us in terms of story pitches or things like that. But listings wise, that is completely open to anyone and everyone. Creating an account which allows listings to pull through, uploading your events, that is always there for you. I know it takes a lot of effort sometimes to do that, especially if you have a lot of events going. We also have definitely heard and are working on the facilitation of the partner portal. I know that it's not the most easy necessarily to navigate, but we are here for you if you need help with that. Please, because I hope you can tell the arts mean a lot to me, so I would love nothing more than to help you create an account. Truly. Yeah.
I would also say make sure to subscribe to our partner newsletter. We have a full calendar of networking opportunities where you can create connections and also get some professional development. We just had the editorial team for Far In a couple of months ago, offering marketing tips for our partners. And so that is a great place to stay in the know. That is also where we will do, we want your news all the time. But that's also where we'll do specific calls for like news or seasonal pushes. If we're gathering something specific, it'll be put out through those e-newsletters. They're filled with really great content and marketing resources, and we're always looking to improve that. So let us know if there's something else you'd like to see there. Please let us know. But we really hope that you'll engage and use those resources. Are there any other questions? How are we on time?
Not sure. We're right at 4:00. I did just want to add one thing about that is like because of the for us again because of the influx of information that we do get, it is really helpful when you have a website. And there's a lot of free website builders. Maybe everybody already has one, but I just wanted to throw that out that that is so important. So if you do meet someone, you can say go to blah blah blah.com, and they can kind of get some more information about you. And the other thing I wanted to mention is in this field, unlike when I was working in the arts more in a concentrated way, there's a lot of networking events that I would really encourage you to come to. And I know sometimes that feels icky or like it's totally different world, but I really would encourage you to come and talk to people, meet people, get to know us, and kind of network in that way because it is beneficial. Yeah.
Yes.
There are two things that I would like to have in my little tool chest. One is an editorial calendar or editorial calendars for publications, and the other is a national and additionally a regional press list. Do you supply either of that, or where I could get that?
Well, the editorial calendars are often posted by media outlets online, and they really vary. And they're not often posting the online calendar, which is often the more valuable, that content, because it lives forever. So that is, I would say, and then as far as how we do media contact development, we are, it's really, it's hard to have one list that you use, because the field is constantly changing, whether that's editorial contacts who are changing seats or media who are covering a variety of things. And so it is one of those things where my best recommendation would be to identify your bullseye outlets and to read those on a regular basis and get familiar with the bylines, journalists, and the contact information is always available online. Want to send us an email, see if we have it, we'd be happy to send it along, but there isn't one list that we have that suits all needs, because we curate those individually for every piece of outreach that we do. So it's evolving, and sorry, I don't have the hole in one, but that's a strategy. There's a strategy for you. Thanks for your question.
Anything else? Yes.
I was wondering if you could give us a real quick rundown of who gets into the Valme list. It's part of the Valme, and who qualifies, what are the sort of parameters of those to not be list.
Yeah. I mean, we're always trying to show as wide of a breadth as possible and there's a lot here, and obviously we're also trying to spread it out year to year as well. So it's always evolving. I mean, I work with Saga City on that piece. They hire the writers and kind of pull the content together. So I think the best way to tap into that is to share your information and make sure that just we're aware of you, so that we can kind of, add that to the list.
And that kind of goes back to that big monster slide of all of our channels and platforms, and that there are so many outlets for storytelling, for media outreach and social media content and all of those things, that we are really intentional about spreading the love around and just really encourage our partners to engage with us and be sharing the news, so we can have those additional layers and your backstory, so we can find more places to plug into more of you.
Anything else?
Thank you so much for having us
Yeah.
here today. We hope to hear from all of you.
Wait.
Okay, yes, join me, one more round of applause for Nick and Dodie. Really appreciate it for our today. Also, ArtsAVL is trying to do our best to promote the arts locally. We do have an arts directory on our website. Check it out, get an account. We do event roundups every week, and we really are trying to build that marketing arm locally for the arts. Again, I'm going to do one more shameless plug for our Creative Spaces survey. Please fill it out. Please fill it out. This information will help us so much. The city is doing an affordable housing plan right now. There's so many opportunities for us to use this data to benefit you, but we need you to fill out the survey. So please do it. All right, now we're going to mix and mingle for a little bit. Thanks, guys.